Dadperfectrevenge. The night I found out I wasn't invited to my own daughter's rehearsal dinner, I was standing in my kitchen in Portland, Oregon, folding the check I'd just written for $58,000. The final payment for Patricia's dream wedding. My name is Carl Bradley. I'm 58 years old, and I thought I knew what being a good father meant. Turns out I was wrong. I'd already covered everything Patricia had circled in those glossy bridal magazines. The venue, catering, photographer, flowers, band, everything she'd been dreaming about since she was 12. My late wife Barbara would have loved to see this day. I was doing it for both of us. I called Patricia to confirm the payment went through. "Hey, sweetheart," I said when she picked up. "Just letting you know the Riverside Gardens payment cleared. You're all set for Saturday." There was a pause. Music in the background, laughter, the clink of glasses. "Oh, Dad, thanks. That's great." Her voice sounded distant, distracted. I figured she was busy with wedding stuff. "So, what time do you want me there Friday?" I asked. "For the rehearsal dinner? I was thinking I could come early, help set up if you need anything." Another pause, longer this time. Then a different voice cut in. Nathan, my soon-to-be son-in-law, smooth and practiced like he'd rehearsed this. "Hey, Carl. Actually, the rehearsal dinner is just for the wedding party and immediate family. You know, keeping it intimate and meaningful." I switched the phone to my other ear. Immediate family? I'm her father, Nathan. I am immediate family. Right, he said, using that patient voice people use when they think you're not getting something obvious. "But it's really just the people in the ceremony. Patricia's bridesmaids, my groomsmen, our parents who are walking us down the aisle. But I was walking her down the aisle. I was the one giving her away. I'm walking Patricia down the aisle," I said quietly. "Actually," Nathan said, and I could hear Patricia whispering something in the background. "We decided my dad and her Uncle Larry will do it together. You know, since Barbara isn't here, it feels more balanced that way." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Uncle Larry? Barbara's brother who lived in Seattle and saw Patricia maybe twice a year. He was walking my daughter down the aisle. Not me. "Patricia," I said, my throat tight. "Is that true?" She came back on the line, her voice small. "Dad, it's just Nathan's family is really traditional, and they thought it would be nice if—" I didn't hear the rest. The phone felt heavy in my hand. The kitchen, the one Barbara and I had remodeled together 20 years ago when I was still working construction between electrical jobs, suddenly felt too quiet, too full of memories. "Dad," Patricia said, "are you still there?" "Yeah," I managed. "I'm here. You understand, right? It's not personal. It's just, this is our day. And we want it to be perfect. Our day. The day I'd been saving for since she was born. The day I'd liquidated part of my IBEW Local 48 pension to pay for." "Sure," I said. "I understand." "Great. So, we'll see you Saturday at the ceremony. 2 o'clock sharp. Love you, Dad." The line went dead before I could answer. I stood there holding a silent phone, looking at the checkbook still open on the counter. $58,000. That number stared back at me. It wasn't even the biggest check I'd written for Patricia. There was the $15,000 for the down payment on her condo when she and Nathan moved in together. The $7,000 I'd quietly transferred when their credit cards maxed out during Christmas. The $9,000 for Nathan's landscaping business that never quite took off. I'd been telling myself, it's what fathers do. You help, you support, you make sure your kid has opportunities you didn't have. But this, being replaced by Uncle Larry, being excluded from the rehearsal dinner like I was some distant cousin, this was different. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Barbara's old reading chair and stared at our wedding photo on the mantle. We'd gotten married at the church with $500 between us. No fancy catering, no band, no Riverside Gardens. Just love and a promise we kept through my electrician's wages and her nursing shifts. Barbara worked the night shift at Emmanuel Hospital for 15 years, so I could build my union career without us going under financially. The morning after that phone call, I woke up early. For years, that was Barbara's habit. She used to say the quiet before the world wakes up is when you think clearly. I found myself at the kitchen table at 6:15, staring at bank statements spread across the surface. When you're living on a union pension and the Social Security, you track every dollar. The pension from Local 48 isn't bad, but it's not unlimited either. Looking at the numbers now, Really looking at them, I saw something I'd been too guilty to admit before. In the 3 years since Patricia met Nathan, I'd given them $89,000. I'd written it, down once in a notebook I kept in my desk. But seeing it in the morning light, the number felt heavier. $89,000 was more than I earned in 2 years as a journeyman electrician. It was the down payment on the house Barbara and I saved 5 years to afford. I picked up my phone. 3 text messages from Patricia, all sent after midnight. Dad, you're not mad, right? Nathan's family is just particular about these things. Love you. Can't wait for you to see me walk down the aisle Saturday. Walk down the aisle with Uncle Larry while I sat in a pew like any other guest. That's when something inside me broke. Not loud or dramatic, but quietly, like an old circuit breaker finally tripping after carrying too much load for too long. I opened my laptop and logged into the joint checking account I'd set up for emergencies, the one Patricia had access to when she really needed help. The balance was $2,847. It should have been closer to $18,000. I clicked on the transaction history. $500. Withdrawal, car repair, $1,200 withdrawal, medical bill, $2,100 withdrawal, surprise tax payment, all within the last month, all while I was writing checks for wedding costs. I closed my eyes and let the truth wash over me. She wasn't just taking my money, she was taking it while actively pushing me out of her life. I picked up the phone and called my bank. First National, this is Kevin. How can I help you? Hi, Kevin. This is Carl Bradley. I need to remove someone from my joint checking account. All right, Mr. Bradley. Can I ask who you're removing? My daughter. I spent the rest of that morning making calls, the bank, my credit union, every account where Patricia had access. I closed them all. When I finished, my hands were steady for the first time in hours. That afternoon, I drove to a coffee shop across town and ordered black coffee. I needed to be somewhere that wasn't my house, somewhere that didn't echo with Barbara's absence and Patricia's betrayal. Halfway through, the coffee, my phone rang. Patricia. Dad. Her voice was tight, angry. What did you do? What do you mean? The bank called me. They said you removed me from your accounts, all of them. That's right. Why would you do that? Because I'm not a bank, Patricia. I'm your father. I don't understand what that means. I set the coffee down carefully. It means I'm done being treated like an ATM that happens to love you. That's not fair. We needed that money. Nathan's business is just getting started. So, do I have expenses? You're retired, Dad. What expenses do you have? I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised me. I'm 58, Patricia, not dead. I have a mortgage, utilities, medical bills. The doctor wants me to get physical therapy for my back twice a week. That's $180 each visit my insurance doesn't cover. You have plenty of money. You're just being petty because of the rehearsal dinner thing. Petty. The rehearsal dinner thing. I paid $58,000 for your wedding, Patricia. That's not petty. That's more than I made some years working construction before I got into the union. Silence. And you know what? I was happy to do it. I wanted to, because you're my daughter and I love you. But I'm not paying for the privilege of being treated like I don't matter. Dad, you're overreacting. No, I'm finally reacting appropriately. What's that supposed to mean? It means the bank is closed, Patricia. Permanently. I could hear her breathing fast. You can't do this. Not now. The wedding is in 2 weeks. The wedding is paid for. Every penny. You'll have your perfect day. We need money for the honeymoon. We were counting on you to help with that. You always said you'd help us get started. I've given you $89,000 in 3 years, Patricia. You're started. 89? She sounded genuinely shocked. That can't be right. It's right. I have the records. $15,000 for the condo down payment. $7,000 for your Christmas debt. $9,000 for Nathan's business. $58,000 for this wedding. Plus dozens of smaller amounts for car repairs, medical bills, whatever emergency came up each month. Long silence. Dad, she said finally, and her voice was cold. If you cut us off, you're going to regret this. Something in her tone made my blood run cold. Is that a threat? It's a fact. We'll handle this our way. The line went dead. I sat in that coffee shop for another hour, waiting for the fear to come. But it didn't. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief, like I'd been holding my breath for 3 years and could finally exhale. 3 days passed. I worked in the garage, organized my tools the way we used to do at the job sites, fixed the loose board on the deck, cleaned out gutters, normal things that made me feel like I was reclaiming my life. Thursday morning, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man in an expensive suit, leather briefcase, polished smile that didn't reach his eyes. Carl Bradley? Yes. He pulled out a manila envelope. You've been served. My stomach dropped. Served with what? A lawsuit. Your daughter and her fiancé are suing you for breach of oral contract and promissory estoppel. They're seeking $25,000. He handed me the envelope and walked away. I stood in my doorway, holding the envelope like it was contaminated. A lawsuit. My own daughter was suing me. I went inside and sat at the kitchen table. My hands shook as I opened it. Complaint for breach of contract. Plaintiffs Patricia Bradley and Nathan Wells. Defendant Carl Bradley. I scanned the pages. The defendant made repeated verbal promises to provide financial support for plaintiff's wedding and honeymoon. Plaintiffs relied on these promises in good faith. The defendant willfully and maliciously withdrew promised support. Amount sought, $25,000 for honeymoon expenses and emotional distress. They weren't just asking for honeymoon money. They were asking for damages for the crime of stopping them from draining me dry. My phone rang. Unknown number, Mr. Bradley, this is Gloria Martinez, attorney at law. A colleague mentioned your situation. Do you have legal representation? How did you know about this? Small legal community. Cases like yours are more common than you'd think. Have you been served yet? 20 minutes ago. Would you be willing to meet this afternoon? No charge for the consultation. 2 hours later, I sat across from Gloria Martinez in her downtown office. Maybe 50. Sharp eyes behind glasses. Calm presence that made you feel like things might be okay. She read through the complaint, making notes. This is textbook financial elder abuse disguised as a contract dispute. Elder abuse? I'm 58. You're a widower with adult children making financial demands under threat of legal action. That's elder abuse. She leaned forward. Tell me everything. So I did. The wedding costs, years of support, joint accounts, rehearsal dinner exclusion, the threat, all of it. She listened without interrupting. Mr. Bradley, do you have documentation? Everything. I keep detailed records. Comes with the territory when you're managing job sites. You document everything, or the contractors will walk all over you. For the first time, she smiled. Good. We're not just going to defend this lawsuit. We're going to destroy it. She pulled out a legal pad. Here's what's happening. They're claiming you made promises, but a promise to give a gift isn't legally enforceable unless it's in writing, and you've already given them tens of thousands. Any reasonable person would say, you've more than fulfilled any moral obligation. Over the next week, Gloria and I built my case like I used to plan electrical installations. Every detail mapped out. Every wire traced back to its source. Every bank statement going back 3 years. Every text where Patricia asked for money. Every email where I said yes. Every withdrawal from the joint account. The paper trail was devastating. $15,000 condo down payment. $7,000 credit card bailout. $9,000 failed business. Investment. $58,000 wedding costs, plus dozens of smaller amounts. $500 here for car trouble, $800 there for unexpected bills, $1,200 for what she called emergency expenses that I never questioned. If they push this to court, Gloria said, we show the judge exactly what kind of people they are. Part of me hoped Patricia would come to her senses, drop the lawsuit, try to rebuild what we'd broken. That hope died Tuesday morning. I was pulling weeds when Patricia's Honda pulled up. She got out, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky, walked toward me like she owned the sidewalk. We need to talk. I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. I have a lawyer now, Patricia. You should talk to her. I'm not here about the lawsuit. I'm here about the wedding. My chest tightened. What about it? She took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, but I couldn't tell if from crying or anger. Nathan and I have been talking. We've decided maybe it's better if you don't come. The world tilted. Don't come to your wedding? It's going to be awkward with everything happening. The lawsuit, you cutting us off, making this about money. We don't want that energy on our special day. Making it about money? Patricia, you're the one suing me for $25,000. Because you promised, she snapped. You've always promised to be there for me. And now, when we actually need you, you're being selfish. I've given you nearly $90,000. And I'm selfish? So what? You think that buys you the right to judge us? To embarrass us? She stepped closer. Fine. Keep your money, keep your boundaries, but don't expect to be part of our lives anymore. Nathan's family warned me about this. They said you'd try to manipulate me, use money to control me. Each word hit like a physical blow. I have never tried to control you. Then why are you doing this? Why are you ruining the happiest time of my life? Because I'm your father, not your piggy bank. She stared at me. For just a second I saw something flicker in her eyes. Uncertainty maybe. But it vanished. Don't come to the wedding. I'll have your name removed from the guest list. She turned and walked back to her car. I stood in my garden, watching my daughter drive away, and realized I'd already lost her. Maybe a long time ago. Maybe the moment I taught her that love could be measured in dollar signs. That night, I called Gloria. She uninvited me from the wedding. I'm sorry, Carl. Don't be. Now I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Then let's give them the fight they asked for. 2 weeks later, we stood in a courtroom. Not dramatic like in movies, just a small civil court with fluorescent lights and worn carpet. Patricia and Nathan sat with their lawyer on one side, Gloria and I on the other. Judge Linda Williams, late 50s, reading glasses on a chain, looked like someone who'd heard every excuse ever invented. Patricia's lawyer went first, young, overconfident. Your Honor, this is straightforward promissory estoppel. Mr. Bradley made specific promises to fund his daughter's honeymoon. The couple relied on these promises and are now in financial distress. He presented their evidence. Text messages where I'd said, "Don't worry, I'll help." Emails where I'd written, "I want you to have the wedding of your dreams," all twisted to look like binding contracts. Then Patricia testified. Pale blue dress, hair pulled back, picture of a wounded daughter. My father has always been my rock. After Mom died, he promised he'd take care of me, that I'd never have to worry. She dabbed her eyes. Nathan and I planned our honeymoon based on Dad's promise. Then, out of nowhere, he cut us off. Said horrible things about Nathan's business. She looked directly at me. I don't understand what happened to my father. Then it was our turn. Gloria stood, calm and precise. Your Honor, the plaintiffs would have this court believe Mr. Bradley is a callous father. Nothing could be further from the truth. She opened our binder. Over 3 years, mister. Bradley has given the plaintiffs $89,000, not lent, given, with no expectation of repayment. She walked Judge Williams through the documentation. Every check, every transfer, every time I'd said yes. This is not a man who fails to support his daughter. This is a man who was systematically exploited until he said enough. Then I testified. I told the judge about the rehearsal dinner, about being replaced by Uncle Larry, about the joint account withdrawals, about the threat when I closed the accounts. Your Honor, I worked 35 years as a union electrician, started in construction, worked my way up to journeyman, took early retirement when I hurt my back on a job site. Every dollar I gave my daughter came from money I earned with my hands, money I saved for retirement. I looked at Patricia. I would have given my daughter anything. I did give her everything. But the moment I stopped, she sued me. That's not a daughter seeking support. That's someone who sees me as a resource to be extracted. Judge Williams removed her glasses. Let me understand. Your clients received $58,000 for a wedding, $15,000 for a condo, and multiple other payments totaling $89,000 over 3 years. Now, they're suing for an additional $25,000 because Mr. Bradley declined to fund their honeymoon? Your Honor, the promises were made. Alleged promises, the judge interrupted. Verbal statements of support are not binding contracts, especially when Mr. Bradley has provided substantial assistance far exceeding reasonable expectations. She looked at Patricia and Nathan. I see this pattern frequently. Adult children accustomed to parental support, who view it as entitlement rather than a gift. When that support is withdrawn, they retaliate legally. Patricia stared at her hands. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. This court categorically denies the plaintiff's claim. Relief flooded through me. Furthermore, I'm troubled by the timing of this lawsuit. filing for emotional distress while excluding the defendant from a wedding he funded, suggests this action was brought in bad faith. She looked at Patricia's lawyer. I'm ordering the plaintiffs to pay Mr. Bradley's legal fees, and I'm referring this matter to Adult Protective Services for review as potential financial elder abuse. Patricia's face went white. The gavel came down. In the hallway, Gloria shook my hand. You did it, Carl. Through the courtroom doors, I could see Patricia and Nathan arguing in hushed, angry voices. Their lawyer was packing his briefcase with sharp, frustrated movements. Do you think she'll ever understand? I asked. Gloria looked at them and shook her head. Some people never do, but that's not your responsibility anymore. I walked out into the bright Portland afternoon. The air smelled like rain and coffee from a nearby cart. Normal people doing normal things, completely unaware of the small war that had just ended. I bought coffee and sat on a bench in the park. I watched families walk by, fathers with their daughters, and felt something unexpected. Peace. Not happiness yet, but peace. My phone buzzed. Text from Joyce, my neighbor. Heard about the court stuff. Just wanted you to know I'm proud of you. Come by for dinner this week? I smiled and typed back. I'd like that. Over the following months, my life changed in small, important ways. I sold the big house full of memories and moved to a smaller place downtown with a river view. Joined a woodworking class at the community center, where some of the other guys were retired tradesmen like me. We'd work on projects and talk about the old days when union work meant something. I started volunteering at the library, reading to kids Tuesday afternoons. Reminded me why I'd wanted to be a father in the first place. That pure joy kids get from simple things, before the world teaches them to want more, always more. I traveled. Not extravagant trips, but real ones. Drove up the coast to Seattle, visited my old crew chief who'd retired to Bellingham. We spent a weekend fishing and talking about jobs we'd worked, guys we'd known. He told me about his own struggles with his son, how setting boundaries had actually saved their relationship in the long run. I flew to Denver to see my college roommate I hadn't talked to in 15 years. We drank too much beer and laughed about getting old, about kids who think they know everything. I lived for myself, not for Patricia, not for anyone's expectations. For me. 3 months after the court hearing, I received a letter, simple envelope with handwriting I recognized. Dad, Nathan, and I got married last month. Small ceremony, just immediate family at the courthouse. We decided not to do the big wedding after all. I'm writing because my therapist suggested I try to explain some things. Nathan and I separated 2 weeks ago. Turns out he was only interested in me as long as the money was flowing. When it stopped, he found someone else whose father still had an open checkbook. I realize now you were right about Nathan, about boundaries, about everything. I stole from you, not just money, but trust and respect and love. I treated you like you were only valuable for what you could provide. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed you to know that I see it now. What I did, what I lost. I'm sorry, Dad. Patricia. I read the letter 3 times, then folded it and put it in my desk drawer. Part of me wanted to call her, but I wasn't ready. Maybe someday. Or maybe not. But I'd learned that love doesn't always mean rushing to fix things. The healing came slowly, like scar tissue forming over a deep cut. I started dating again, met Linda at the woodworking class. She was a retired nurse, understood loss, understood the importance of boundaries. We took things slow, enjoyed each other's company without expectations. I made new friends through volunteering, guys my age who'd raised kids and learned hard lessons about when to help and when to step back. We'd grab coffee, talk about grandkids. Some of them we're lucky enough to have relationships with. That evening, standing on my balcony watching the sunset over the Willamette River, I thought about Barbara. She'd be proud, I realized. Not of the pain or the lawsuit, but of the man who finally learned his own worth. I raised my coffee cup to the sunset, to Barbara, to second chances, to the future. My name is Carl Bradley. I'm 58 years old, and for the first time in years, my life belongs to me. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is teaching them that your love isn't for sale. True strength isn't in how much you can give. It's in knowing when to stop giving and start respecting yourself.